it is my pleasure to introduce to you a member of the wonderful photo club, Glenn Wyatt. And Glenn has picked one of my favorite subjects, birds. So good morning, Glenn.
Morning, and thank you, and thanks to the Senior Center for having me, and thanks for the photo club for doing this. For those of you who don't remember, last March, which seems like a long time ago, I got to post my pictures on the wall, and then something happened, and the Senior Center and everything else got shut down about 2 weeks after the pictures got posted. And they were in the Senior Center till I believe September when I removed them. And so I have the record for the longest non-viewed photo exhibit probably on Bainbridge Island. So here we are again. And I'm filling in for one of the other photo club members who was supposed to do this month, but was unable to do it. So here we are back with photos. All of these have been taken in my backyard over the years. We've lived on the island for over 30 years, and I've been doing photography for over 50 years. So the two of them kind of go together. So here we are.
Yes. So now you're going to have hundreds of people looking at these photos, because this is being recorded and it'll go to YouTube, and we're all going to share them with our friends and family. So this will be fantastic, Glenn. This is kind of a wonderful way to get out the beautiful photography that our photo clubs take. So would you like to start your presentation?
Okay.
Excuse me, Karen, can I just very quickly ask, am I supposed to take attendance at this one, or does not necessary now?
Go ahead and take it, and then we'll talk to Reed about it later.
Okay.
So anyhow, well, I just want to welcome you all, and Glenn is going to start setting up his.
See if we can do this.
You can do it, and if just take your time, don't freak out or anything.
Oh no, let's see. We did this earlier, and we've got into, is that right? Oh, it also presentation.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Glenn. That's it.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, let me finish setting up here. This is only totally confusing. All right. So, as I said, these are all shots from my backyard, and here is a picture of it. This area that we're looking at is actually, it used to be all understory. It's now our revised drain field. And in the process of living here over the last 30 years, we've taken down a number of trees. I think we've taken down 24 trees and have left a number of snags. So you can see some of the snags that we've left up. These are primarily hemlock and Douglas fir snags. And what I've tried to do is show where typically we see the birds that I've selected. And so we have 5 species of woodpecker that frequent the yard. We got the Downy and hairy woodpeckers, northern flicker, and the pileated woodpecker. And as a matter of fact, as far as the flicker goes, right in here was a nest hole drilled by the flicker pair about 4 years ago, and you'll see pictures from of this tree, a lot of pictures of this tree. The other birds that we get frequently in the yard, song sparrow, certainly the spotted towhees around all the time. Red-breasted sap sucker is pretty much here all year. And then we get some visitors that we see every once in a while. For example, the barred owl, the western tanager. We see band-tailed pigeons, I think, on a monthly basis. Boy, there's a bird that spooks easily. And then in the wintertime, we get the varied thrush, which is around from about November till early April. So let's start with the woodpeckers. And 2 that you see frequently at the feet are the Downy woodpecker and the hairy woodpecker. The Downy is about 2/3 the size of the hairy woodpecker, These are both males. You can tell they're males because of the red patches on the backs of their heads. And it's pretty obvious, no, it's not anyway, that the Downy has a shorter bill compared to the hairy woodpecker. And again, the size difference of the two is distinctive. Both birds definitely go after suet. They go after the huckleberries that we have growing in the yard. Many other things that we have growing in the backyard. Another bird that we have, and I'm sure you hear it every once in a while, is the red-breasted sap sucker. Sap suckers are also around all year. You'll see evidence of them primarily in the cedar trees. They will drill into the cedars and drink the sap of the cedar. The red-breasted sapsucker, it's about the same size as a robin, similar to the hairy woodpecker. And this was taken a few weeks ago. This little guy was pounding madly on this snag of a hemlock. Let's see if I can get this to work. Yeah, here's an example. We got photobombed by another one. So you can hear the two of them. And what's interesting is they were joined by a third bird, again, in this stand of cedars that we have in the yard. We got 3 cedars close to each other. And after a few minutes, the 3 birds moved over to one of the Douglas firs on the other side of the property. And this almost looks like a multiple exposure because the birds look so familiar. And I believe that there are 2 males and 1 female. You can't tell them apart, so I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And I have no idea which one was the first bird that I was shooting previously. So they're around, and 2 of them, the one that was pounding on the tree has paired up with a female, at least I think it's a female anyway, and they were working on a nest which they've consequently abandoned, and it's been taken over by a nuthatch in a neighbor's alder. So again, that's a red-breasted sapsucker, and we see them all year. Another bird that hangs around most of the year around our area anyway is the red-shafted northern flicker. And this is a female picture that was taken a while ago. Let's see, I think probably about 10 years ago. And the first time we saw flickers in the yard was shortly after we moved into the house, and we went, oh, isn't that neat? There's a bird on the ground, and it was going after carpenter ants. Well, the reason it was going after the carpenter ants was because there was a hemlock that was absolutely infested with them, and that hemlock didn't last very long because if we kept it up, it would have fallen on the house. So, yeah. So again, the flicker, ants are its main food, according to Cornell, and it will eat them in the dirt, and it'll go for, again, it's a suet-loving bird, and it goes after, sunflower seeds too. So 4 years ago, I noticed this pair of birds, because the males and females both work on the nest. And so in that one fir that was taken down and snagged, I noticed this bird, or this pair of birds, working on the nest. And this was, when was it? This picture was in April as they were working on it. And then a couple of months later, in mid-June, the chicks appeared. And so this one is about 57 days after this picture. And near as I can tell, there were 2 males and 2 females. Here's a juvenile male. You can just barely see the red on its cheek, I guess. And then they got very big, or very much bigger, over the next week. And then actually about the end of June, or the middle of June rather, they were ready to fledge. And in the process of photographing these, I took some videos of those too. And let's see if this will work. There we go. So here's the juvenile male looking for some food. I don't know. Hopefully you can see. He's not very noisy. He does let out some chirps every once in a while, but you can see what happens. Okay, there's the parent calling. And this is the male parent coming in. And the female chick appears. I think these birds would eat 24 hours a day.
Yeah, they grow so quickly.
Oh, absolutely. This will transition over to the female sticking her head out.
Glenn, these are beautiful pictures. I came in late. What are you using to film with?
This was with the Nikon D500 and an f3, or rather a 300 millimeter f2.8 on a tripod. Oh, try again. There. Okay. And then the last of the 5 woodpecker species that we have at the house are the pileated woodpeckers. So on the left, you have a male pileated woodpecker and a nesting box for a chickadee or for a nuthatch. And this box was up for about 10 years or so, and you can see the kind of damage that the woodpecker has done to it by pecking on it. And
Oh my gosh.
if I was the chickadee living in that box, I would have hearing protection.
Yes.
You can probably hear that thing over the whole neighborhood. Unfortunately, I don't have a video of it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something. Did some research on the woodpecker, and I'll get to that in a minute. But over on the right, then, we've never had pileated woodpeckers nesting in the box that I put up for them years ago. We've had squirrels in that box. We've had flickers in the box. And the strangest thing was when we had a female hooded merganser nesting in it.
Wow.
And unfortunately, a raccoon got to the eggs.
Oh.
But every year we see the juvenile and parents running around. This is a juvenile male on the right. We call them copper tops because when they're very young, the top knot here is copper colored, and that changes to the dark red within a month or two. But
These are amazing. The Audubon Society would probably love to. I mean, getting a juvenile, wow, that's
oh
the
yeah,
first time I've ever seen one.
yeah, they're around here every year.
Yeah.
And then so, one of the things I like to do is see if I can get a shot of a woodpecker actually feeding on some of the critters. They eat ants, and once I saw a pileated woodpecker that was literally covered with ants after going on one of our snags in the front yard.
Oh.
But you see the tongue. The tongue is, I don't know, 1 millimeter or 2 in diameter, and it's the one of the main shock absorbers for the pileys. What I read was that the pileated woodpecker head can develop a force up to 1,500 times the force of gravity. And you note how the tail is against the tree. When the pilly pounds on the tree, the force from hitting their force from the impact is taken up by the body, and they have very strong shoulders. What is it? 97%, no, 99.7% of the energy from hitting the tree is absorbed by the body, and it goes back into the tree because the tail is against the tree and transmits the force back into the tree. And Chinese researchers say that 0.3% of the energy, that last 0.3% of the energy is dissipated as heat. So the bird has to take frequent breaks to let its head cool down. And then the other thing that helps with energy absorption is that the brain, or the head bones, are somewhat spongy and are shock absorbing. The brain is surrounded by the tongue assembly, and the bill has both soft and hard layers, so the whole bird is evolved to take the force of impact, which is kind of cool.
It's fascinating.
It's wild.
Wow.
And the other thing that gets me is this makes my head hurt. You know, you got this bird with its head upside down, tongue sticking out, and going after probably a termite grub, because we get those here. The fortunate thing is, with all the wood that we have and the down pieces of wood that we've kept, I think the termites go for that instead of the house.
That's true. That's a good thing.
So another common visitor, moving from the woodpeckers, we've got the spotted towhee. There again, year-round visitors, and here's one taking a bath. The spotted towhee used to be called the rufous-sided towhee when people thought there was one species between the eastern and western U.S., and now they've been broken into the spotted towhee out here. But you know, these bright orange birds, you'd think that you'd see them easily against the ground, but with their colors and markings, they blend in very easily. Moving on. Yeah. Another frequent visitor to the yard, we see the band-tailed pigeons every year. In the early 90s, it seemed like we had flocks of, I don't know, up to 40 birds in the backyard at any one time. We had a swing set, they'd be lining the top of the swing set. But in the last, I don't know, 20 years, they've decreased. I think maybe we see 5 or so at the most here on any given day. But what they like to feed on flat screen feeders. We've had those in the past, but the crows go at them too, so we've eliminated that. But the pigeons keep coming, and they spook very easily. You can be walking around inside the house, pass by a window, and if a pigeon sees you, they'll completely break up the mob of them or group of them and fly away very quickly. Another bird we don't see very often, the western tanager. We have, again, our house is a woodlands. We've got so many trees that we can't get grass to grow, which I don't miss it a bit, and I'm also allergic to it, so I'm very happy to not have grass. But we get the birds that are used to being in the margins of woodlands, so we're very fortunate. Every once in a while, like maybe a few times a year, if we're lucky, we'll see a tanager.
Hey, Glenn, are they a migratory? Do they come just certain times of the year? Do you know?
Yeah, I was looking that up. They go from Central America to the US and Canada. Usually the southern ends of the range for non-breeding season, and they go all the way up for the breeding season. And they are predominantly insect eaters, but they'll also go to feeders for sunflower seeds.
Okay. I've seen him twice, and I think I've seen him in the summertime.
That's probably true. Yeah, we saw them over at Lake Chelan many years ago. Actually, there was a nest outside of a cabin we were staying, so that was a great photo opportunity.
You're
Back
so
in the
beautiful.
old film days.
Yeah, you're such a beautiful bird.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, they are. Let's see. One thing I read about them is that evidently in the early 1900s, they were thought to be a main reason for reduction in some fruit crops. And I guess they were shot and poisoned because of that.
Oh,
Fortunately, they're not hunted anymore.
thank goodness.
Yeah, they're very cool birds. Another bird that we've seen once, maybe twice around here. This was again back in 2017. This is a Pacific Slope Flycatcher. And we saw this bird and had no idea what it was. Sent a picture of it over to Joan Carson at the Kitsap Sun, and she identified it as a Pacific Slope Flycatcher. And here it's, it's a small bird. It's, the size of a sparrow or smaller, quite distinctive, very pretty little bird. It was actually nesting on our power meter box against the house. And here it's sitting in a fuchsia. This is a, what do you call it? A Fuchsia Magellanico, which at our place, they get to be about 10 feet tall. So if you're looking for a tall fuchsia, that's a thing they go for. But they go after insects. And again, once in a while they're here. I hope it comes back because it's a nice little bird.
Darling. Oh.
Then there's, the barred owl. We've seen barred owls at the Grand Forest and also at Blodell Reserve, and I was fortunate enough one day to see it in the backyard. So, these are fairly large birds, bigger than a crow, with their distinctive "who cooks for you" call that we hear at night every once in a while. And they go after rodents. What else do they? They eat squirrels, mice, other birds. At Blodell Reserve, we actually saw one. Actually, I heard one catch a chipmunk and then saw it eating the chipmunk or carrying the chipmunk to a tree just about over my head one day. So
Wow.
yeah,
They're such majestic birds.
Yeah, they are, and they like to nest rather in. Again, dead trees. So another reason for keeping old snags in your yard if you have to take a tree down.
Yeah.
And then the Cooper's hawk. At least I think it's a Cooper's hawk because it could be a sharp-shinned hawk, but I'm pretty sure it's a Cooper's hawk because of the rounded shape of the tail. Again, a crow-sized bird. They're around all year. They're here every once in a while. This was taken, when was this? This was in February? Yeah, this is in February, just before or rather after, I guess, one of our snowstorms. The Cooper's hawk was around. This bird was sitting in an Indian plum looking down at a junco, which was flying around near the ground. Shortly after the Cooper's hawk had its portrait taken, it took off after the junco and didn't catch the junco. It looked rather disgusted after that, I believe. One thing about having the Cooper's hawk is that sometimes you can tell they've been there, and one of their victims can be a smaller bird like the varied thrush. I don't know, have people seen varied thrushes or heard them in their yards?
Yes.
Okay. Well, here's a female, and you can tell it's a female as opposed to the male because it's kind of a darkish gray up here instead of deep grayish black, and it has a very light band on its chest. I've noticed at least in our yard, the female thrushes tend to stay closer to the edges of open areas. They don't venture into the open areas as much as the male varied thrush, which is coming up. There's a male varied thrush in a cedar tree. And when I was shooting these pictures, you can tell it's one of our snow days in February. This bird was down on the ground and it was going after seeds with juncos and towhees and also squirrels. So it would, I was lucky to get it away from those guys and get the picture of the thrush and the cedar.
Beautiful.
Oh, they're wonderful birds. I think they're again a very nervous bird. If you're outside, they're very difficult to photograph. I actually have a little blind that I was using at one point to shoot pictures of, and now we have an office out in the backyard, and this was from the office, so the bird's about 15 feet away from me and didn't care that I was there, which is fine.
Yes.
And as I said, the Cooper's hawk was around, and this was what? This is the middle of March. This is actually March the 9th. I was out walking around in the yard, had noticed that I hadn't been seeing the male varied thrush and found this pile of feathers. So I would say the Cooper's hawk was successful one day.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on. Okay, this continues to be springtime in our yard. This was taken actually last Monday. A song sparrow building a nest. This is interesting. Wasn't supposed to do that. Anyway, nest building activity. Took about 12 seconds between the time the bird landed and took off to deposit that bit of probably grass.
Their song is so glorious. I just love it.
Yeah, that's true. They are all over. And then you can see how well camouflaged the nest is. You can barely see the bird right in the center, but no real direct evidence of the nest for most of the time. So that's about it for the photos that I've put up on the Senior Center website. If you're interested, here's a list of sources for bird photography and information about birds. If you're looking for a couple of good photography sites, there's fredmiranda.com, which does the full gamut of photography, and then the Backcountry Gallery forums does quite a bit with bird or wildlife and nature photography. Then a lot of the information that I pulled in for this talk is from the All About Birds site on the Cornell lab. And there's also the Audubon's online guide to the Washington State birds. And if you're looking for a book to take with you in the car and or to look for places to go for birds, the Birder's Guide to Washington is a very valuable reference.
Mm-hmm.
So that is about it.